Welcome back to the Four County Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Kevin Carey with Caliber Home Loans. I've got Chris Thompson here with me with the Chris Thompson team of RE/MAX. Chris, thank you very much for joining us again.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
So obviously we've been talking about the market, right? That's what we do. It's what we talk about.
Day in and day out.
Right. So obviously is news and people are seeing it now. Gas prices are coming up, right? We're seeing $3, over $3 in our
diesel. I drive a diesel truck,
right?
And that's anywhere between $3.05 and $3.15 right now, which is about a solid $1 higher than it was just this time last year.
Right. So it's one indicator that talks about inflation. What inflation is the bond market and interest rates kryptonite, to be perfectly honest with you, right? So when inflation levels go up, interest rates come with it. Now, obviously, we're in the historically, right? You've heard this, historically low rates, right? We are
we've been hearing that since I got in the business in 2006.
Correct, right? Yeah. But we're still in that low interest rate environment. So now, if inflation does start to kick in and rates go up, and we've had this crazy market where a house goes on the market for $400, people are bidding sometimes $525, $550 just to get the house, because interest rates are so low, their buying power has been able to
buy a lot more homes.
Exactly, be able to take that on.
Typically afford if rates were, quote unquote normal, not historic lows.
Right. So as interest rate rises, are you forecasting, maybe, are you thinking this is gonna change our market? Do you think this whole bidding war, this whole escalation is going to stop, or do you think they're still going to carry on?
I think it's still going to carry on in some aspects, and also in certain markets.
Right.
I think there's going to be pockets that are more affected versus others.
Right.
I have buyers that I'm working with right now that if rates tick up another half a point, they have to completely change what they're looking for.
Right.
I mean, they're in the roughly 650 to 7 range. If those rates pick up to change that payment, they're probably now looking at like a 550 or 6, somewhere in that range.
Right.
It's not going to be the same caliber of house. You can't. They're not. They're apples to oranges.
Right.
So that might take that buyer completely out of the market.
Okay.
Who knows? Because when we've been looking for 6 months, and we've written a bunch of contracts, just been beaten out every single time. But they're only willing to go to a certain amount, and they're the ones going to be paying for it. They're the ones going to be living there, so it's their decision. It's just our job as agents to try to help them to get their dream home as quickly and cheaply as possible now.
Right. So if I'm hearing you correctly, let's say my buying power, I'm pre-approved up to 550, right? And we've been telling people, look, don't look at 550.
Right.
You got to really kind of start between 450 and 5.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to bid potentially up to your max in order to be able to qualify. So if I'm hearing you correctly, even if rates do tick up, it's not going to stop this momentum of bidding and multiple offers, because the supply and demand, there are just so many people that want to buy a home and not enough people selling. We're still going to see a competitive market moving forward, even if rates tick up a little bit. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yes, and I think the biggest thing with that is we are in a housing shortage. Back from 06, builders stopped building because they were losing a bunch of money and they couldn't afford to even put a product out, so they had to sit on a lot of development projects that they had.
Right.
So we're in a housing shortage. There's a whole lot more people in this country now than there was 15 years ago. Right. And there's just not enough houses for them.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the biggest driving factor to the supply and demand of everything. Is there's a lot of people that want to own a home, especially because rates are so low right now. And if they take up too much, then take some of the kind of the mid-range potential buyers. So say I'm looking for a townhouse in the 350 range. Like Kevin was saying earlier, I can start my search around 300,000, knowing that I'm gonna have to bid that thing up. It's all supply and demand. Now, if you take that same townhouse in a community in Montgomery County, just say Germantown. If you take that same house and put 10 listings in that same neighborhood, well, now that market is going to stable off. There's going to be,
because there's more options.
Supply and demand.
Well, it's more options for buyers, right?
Correct.
I mean, look, I've got other realtors, if you guys have been following the show, that have been talking about communities that have not had any listings in an entire neighborhood for the last 3 months.
Trying to comp out a potential listing appointment.
Yeah.
And just trying to figure out, hey, what can I sell this thing for? Some of these places haven't had a sale in 2 years.
Right.
That's a great neighborhood that as a listing agent, we'd love to get into.
Right.
And buyers want to get into also because people who live there don't want to leave.
Yep.
That's the great sign of a great neighborhood is there's no listings.
Yep.
So a listing like that, especially in this market, is going to sell for a whole lot more than we can probably even fathom a price for.
Yeah. All right, so just to summarize what we've been talking about, obviously inflation, right? If interest rates go up, does it do you think it's going to slow down this bidding process, this escalation? And basically what we're telling you is we don't think so. I mean, it's still a supply and demand game. I think what it's going to do, it's going to take people out of a certain price point because if interest rates go up and that payment, again, because what you qualify for and what you feel comfortable paying per month are two different things. I think that's really what you're going to talk. Well, you know what? I'm okay at $2,900, but that $3,000 payment for some reason freaks me out, right? And I get that. Look, at the end of the day, it's your mortgage, it's your payment. You got to feel comfortable with it, but I think that's the biggest thing it's going to do is if rates rise, I think it's going to go, well, I no longer want to go to 550 or 525, if that's my max where I feel comfortable. I think it's going to drop it down by maybe 20, 25,000. You can only go to let's say your max is 550, you can only go to 525 or maybe even 500, just depending upon if rates do go up. So, Chris, look, thanks again for being here. I appreciate explaining this to everybody. Chris's information is behind me. Obviously, reach out to him. He's more than happy to answer any questions. If you'd like to hit the subscribe button down below. Chris, thank you again for being here. Thank you guys for joining us today, and you guys have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.